He had a Grammy-nominated album. He owned a strip mall in his neighborhood. He built the world's first smart clothing store, and none of it was luck. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about Nipsey Hussle. The rapping was never the goal. The rapping was the marketing. The real product was ownership. By the time the industry finally understood what he was doing, it was too late to stop him. He wasn't just ahead of the game, he was playing a different game entirely. And the most dangerous part, he wanted to teach the whole neighborhood to play it with him. Welcome back to Hip Hop History Vault. Part 1 ended with the $100 mixtape that broke every rule. Now we walk into the empire he built from the wreckage. This is part 2, the business genius they ignored. Let's start where every empire starts, not with the mic, with land. Most rappers, when they make their first real money, buy chains. They buy cars. They buy mansions in the hills. Nipsey bought a shopping center, not in Beverly Hills, in Crenshaw, on the same Crenshaw and Slauson corner that had been part of his life since childhood. Here's the deal he made. Alongside his business partner, David Gross, Nipsey invested roughly $2.5 million into the shopping plaza on Slauson Avenue. $2.5 million for a strip mall in South Central that other investors had written off for years. Think about that for a second. This is the moment most people miss. While other artists were treating their success as a reward, Nipsey treated his as an opportunity to plant a flag. He wasn't renting his future from someone else, he was buying it. And that plaza wasn't just real estate. It was the headquarters. It was the warehouse. It was the storefront. It was the symbol. Everything he built would run through that corner. Why did this matter so much? Because he understood something that Wall Street already knew, but the hood had never been taught. Owning land is how you stop being at someone's mercy. A rapper without property is just an employee with a microphone. Nipsey refused to be an employee, so he bought the ground he stood on. That single decision, buying that shopping plaza, was the seed. And from that seed, a retail empire grew. Because inside that plaza at West Slauson, he opened the Marathon Clothing. Not a pop-up, not a merch table at a show, a flagship store, a real physical headquarters for the brand he'd been building since the mixtape days.
Nick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Marathon!
June 17th, 2017, the doors opened and the line stretched around the block. But here's what the crowd didn't know. This wasn't just a clothing store. This was Nipsey's classroom, his community center, his bank, his recruiting ground. The Marathon Clothing was never really about t-shirts. It was about control. He controlled the product. He controlled the price. He controlled the message. And most importantly, he controlled the revenue. Every single dollar stayed in the neighborhood instead of flowing to some corporate office on the other side of the country. He used the businesses to create jobs and opportunities for people in the community. He used to say the Marathon Clothing wasn't a business. It was a statement that Black-owned businesses could thrive in the hood without selling out, without leaving. But the store was hiding a secret.
A new concept as far as it being a smart store.
Right, it's a smart store. It's the world's first smart store,
Absolutely,
correct? Okay,
yeah.
so what does that mean?
Well, it's basically, there's gonna be an app that you can download to activate the smart features of the store. It's gonna be the Marathon Store app. And basically, you know, when you walk into the store, there's gonna be tags that, you know, gonna have content. So tags of the clothing. So a certain shirt, right, we'll promote the shirt and it'll be a piece of content that's programmed specifically to this shirt. So that, you know, when the shirt drops, you get the shirt, but then you also get a piece of content that's not on iTunes.
Damn.
That's not on YouTube.
That is dope.
That's not in the cloud. That's not to, you can't consume it anywhere else. It's not out. And the method that you're gonna be able to stream it on is a new technology.
A technology so advanced, it would make headlines around the world. Because Nipsey didn't just open a store, he built the world's first smart store. This was 2017. Years before brands were experimenting with AR and connected apparel, a rapper from Crenshaw was building it into his store, on his own block, with his own money.
Dan, Nipsey Hussle's fans, family, and closest friends all agree he's one of the realest MCs out there of his time. Now, this title isn't just because of his rhymes talking about the life in South LA, but because he's creating change in South LA.
The tech press couldn't believe it. Here was an independent artist out-innovating retail giants, and he did it without a Silicon Valley budget. He did it with vision and with a team that believed in the mission. This is the pattern you'll see again and again in Nipsey's life. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for the industry to hand him a tool. He built the tool himself, and the Smart Store was just the beginning. Because next, he turned his attention to something even more ambitious, the next generation. In 2018, Nipsey cut the ribbon on Vector 90, a co-working space and STEM center in the heart of Crenshaw. Let that sink in. A co-working space for tech in the middle of South Central LA, at a time when Silicon Valley was a world away. Literally and figuratively, Nipsey was building a bridge.
We recently opened up an inner city co-work space in the vein of WeWork for local entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? And we got I think 8 entrepreneurs that all have products in the tech space that are in the building with us. And we also have a science, technology, engineering, and math center on the 2nd level for young kids to be able to get trained in the skill set that it takes to get into Silicon Valley.
He wanted the kids from Crenshaw to have the same tools, the same resources, the same access as kids in Palo Alto. Vector 90 was part incubator, part classroom, part community hub. It gave local entrepreneurs a place to build their startups. It gave young students a place to learn coding, science, engineering, math, and it did something else. It sent a message that the young people of Crenshaw belonged in the tech economy, not just as consumers, as creators, as owners. He partnered on this with his friend and business partner, and he poured his own money and his own name into it because he genuinely believed that the future of his community depended on technology, and that if he didn't build the pipeline himself, nobody else would. Here's the heartbreaking part. Vector 90 was a seed planted for a harvest he never got to see, but that seed is still growing. Vector 90 became one of the lasting projects connected to the vision he had for the neighborhood. Because Nipsey wasn't building for himself. He was building for the generation after him. He used to say he wanted to be the man who opened doors for the next 10 Nipseys. And that brings us to the philosophy underneath all of it, the engine that drove every move he made. It sounds simple, it's not. Because ownership mindset is the exact opposite of how most of us are taught to think. Nipsey understood that the American dream, as sold to the hood, was a lie. Get a job, rent an apartment, buy a car on credit, spend your whole life paying other people for the right to exist. He rejected all of it. He didn't want a job. He wanted equity. He didn't want to rent. He wanted to own. He didn't want to be paid for his work. He wanted to own the product of his work. This is why he turned down major label deals in part 1. It's why he charged $100 for a mixtape. It's why he bought a shopping plaza instead of a mansion. Every single decision was filtered through one question: does this bring me closer to owning my future or further away? He used to talk about this constantly. He'd say,
that's why I call my thing the marathon, because I'm not gonna lie and portray this ultimate poise like I've had it figured out. Nah, I just didn't quit. That's the only distinguishing quality from me and probably whoever else going through this or went through this or is gonna go through this, is that I ain't quit. I went through every emotion. I went through every emotion with trying to pursue what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I think that what gonna separate whoever's gonna try to go for something is that you ain't gonna quit. Unless, you're gonna really take the stance if I'm gonna die behind what I'm getting at right now.
He'd break it down in interviews like a professor. He'd explain the difference between income and wealth, between working for money and having money work for you, between being a star and being an owner. And he lived it. He wasn't preaching from a mansion in the hills. He was preaching from the storefront on Slauson with his name on the deed. Now here's the part that made everyone uncomfortable. Because Nipsey didn't just talk about ownership, he practiced it in the most radical way possible. Not with a charity check, not with the foundation that exists only on paper. He invested with his own money in his own businesses on his own block. He bought real estate in Crenshaw when nobody else would touch it. He opened stores there. He hired from there. He paid taxes there. He put capital back into the community that raised him. And this is the part that's hard for people to hear. Charity was never his goal. He wasn't trying to give the hood a handout. He was trying to give the hood an economy. A handout feeds you for a day. An economy feeds you forever. He wanted to build businesses in Crenshaw that would employ the people there, that would turn residents into owners, that would create wealth that stayed in the community instead of leaking out. He understood that the most powerful thing you can do for a disinvested neighborhood isn't to send it aid. It's to bring it investment, real investment, investment that creates jobs, builds wealth, and gives people a stake in their own future. And then he did the one thing nobody expected. He proved the blueprint worked on the biggest stage in music. February 16th, 2018, after 15 years of mixtapes, after being told for a decade that he'd missed his moment, Nipsey Hussle released his debut studio album. The title was a promise. After a lifetime of grinding, after running the marathon for so long, this was his victory lap. And it was worth the wait. The album was a masterpiece. Critics called it one of the best hip-hop albums of the year. It debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200. And it did something even more important. It told his full story, from the streets to the boardroom, with the confidence of a man who had finally arrived on his own terms. Every track felt earned. Every bar carried the weight of 15 years of struggle. This wasn't a rapper trying to prove himself. This was a businessman telling the world he'd made it and showing exactly how. Victory Lap wasn't just an album. It was the soundtrack to a thesis. The thesis that an independent artist and owner could compete with and beat the entire industry on his own terms. And then the industry had no choice but to acknowledge it. On December 7, 2018, the nominees for the 61st Grammy Awards were announced. And there it was, Victory Lap, nominated for Best Rap Album. It's 15 years, countless mixtapes, a career built on refusing to compromise. And now, the highest honor in music was acknowledging what Crenshaw had always known. Nipsey Hussle was one of the best in the world. He was nominated alongside some of the biggest names in rap. And for a man who had spent his whole career being told he wasn't mainstream enough, being told he'd missed his window, this was validation on a scale he never allowed himself to dream of. In interviews after the nomination, you could hear it in his voice.
You know, that's important, that's special. I feel like 2018 was loaded with great rap releases, so, you know, I'm excited to be, you know, one of the ones that got recognized by the Grammys. I was in the gym, actually, you know, and I was just working out. I went in with my engineer, and he worked on the whole album with me the whole process, so he was watching Twitter. I was trying to just ignore it and work, and I seen him jump up and celebrate, so I figured, like, we had got the nomination.
He was grateful, he was proud. But he was also exactly who he'd always been, calm, focused, and already thinking about the next move. He didn't see the nomination as a finish line. He saw it as proof that his philosophy worked, proof that you could maintain control over your music, build your own businesses, and invest in your own neighborhood, and still be recognized as one of the greatest artists of your generation. He lost that Grammy to Cardi B's Invasion of Privacy. But the nomination meant more than the trophy ever could, because it told every young artist watching, you don't have to sell your soul to be respected. You can do it your way. You can own it all. And that's where we have to pause, because this is the moment the story turns. This is the peak of the empire. The Grammy-nominated artist, the owner, the visionary, standing on top of the mountain he built himself. But on the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson, the corner he poured everything into, a storm was gathering. And the man who built an empire to protect his community was about to discover that no amount of ownership could protect him from the streets he refused to leave. He'd been right about everything: the real estate, the smart store, the ownership mindset, the neighborhood investment. All of it was a blueprint the world had never seen, but the blueprint wasn't finished. The marathon wasn't over, and the hardest miles were still ahead. Part 1 built the foundation. Part 2 built the empire. Part 3 is where it all comes crashing down, and where Nipsey's greatest lesson finally comes into focus. He thought he'd won. He hadn't. Not yet. You'll want to see how this ends. I'll see you in Part 3. And until then, keep running the marathon.